Prayer. Let's just let that settle with us for a moment. That we know that when we stop and we reach out, God hears us. Spirit hears us. I want to thank Cindy and Daisy for ministering to us through the music, because it's the first thing that touches our heart and opens us up to be ready. So thank you. Thank you. It's a point of pride for me. Cindy was in my kindergarten classroom. And she was a powerful student then, and she's a powerful force now, because she's using her gift to help all of us, to move us along this journey. Well, good morning, Renaissance Unity. Good morning, Renaissance Unity. Good morning, Renaissance Unity. Happy Sunday and happy Labor Day. This is the unofficial end of summer. And we're moving into this different space. Someone said that the other day when I couldn't keep my computer up and running, that Mercury is in retrograde. And I'm like, what is that? Help me understand. I just know that I couldn't get on Zoom and it wasn't working, but she said, it'll be okay in a little while. Mercury is in retrograde. I said, okay, thank you, got it. World Day of Prayer. And you heard from Prayer Chaplain Linda. I'm here serving in two capacities: a proud prayer chaplain for Renaissance Unity and a member of the Renaissance Unity Renaissance Unity ministerial team. And as she mentioned, and as Brett mentioned, today we are beginning our journey. A journey into the World Day of Prayer. Well, you say, Reverend Wilma, the World Day of Prayer is Wednesday and Thursday. Yeah, I know. But we at Renaissance Unity are going to start it today. And we will travel this journey until the end of the week in prayer. You see, prayer is the foundation of unity. And it is where we, as an organization, as a spiritual community, where we get our power and where we are supported. Years ago, I had an opportunity to visit Unity Village. And I have an affinity to towers, like something like this, lighthouses. And I lost my way. Couldn't find my way. I was in the dark. Didn't know how to get back to Unity Village. And from afar, I saw this building. It was at night, but there was a red light blinking. I was able to find my way home from that light. There's another lighthouse in Unity Village. That is Silent Unity. Had the opportunity to climb the back stairs and walk into this powerful place. Have you ever opened a door and the wind was so powerful that it blew you back? When I walked upstairs and they opened that door, I could feel that prayer energy, and it just hit me, and it traveled down every muscle, every part of my body. It was such an experience. Silent Unity. Silent Unity is the foundation of what we do as a spiritual community. We stand on the shoulders of the pioneers, Myrtle and Charles Fillmore. They created this powerful energy, this belief that prayer changes everything. Silent Unity is 126 years old. 126 years of prayers, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 26 years. I got any mathematicians in here? How many hours of prayer? 8,940,240 hours of continuous prayer. I'm proud to be associated with an organization like Silent Unity, a community like Silent Unity, because when 2 years ago hit, when the pandemic came and the world shut down, Silent Unity did not. They still answered the phone from remote locations. How may I pray with you? I put in an email to the vice president and asked her, I said, how many prayers? She said, about 4,000. 4,000 prayers they filled in a day. In a day. And I asked her, I said, 9/11, when that happened, pardon me, how many prayers? She said, you know what? There's no data. However, we knew that the groundswell, the requests for prayers were so deep that people waited for hours to pray. January 2021, we began a spiritual journey. We started on this journey to understand, to discover, to find out the truth of who we are. And as we traveled, we gained knowledge and spiritual tools to enhance, to deepen our spiritual growth. Those tools included our Sunday morning service, our mastermind journals, our groups, Monday meditation, Wednesday night, pardon me, connecting in consciousness. 800 Are You Heals. And with each of those tools, we were along the way, we were allowed to rest, renew, to recharge, and to fill up with the spiritual sustenance that would fuel our journey and continue along our path. Today, our journey takes us to prayer. Seeing prayer as a call to action. Seeing prayer as an evolution of our consciousness to lift us, to elevate us to the Christ consciousness. A call to prayer to be what this world needs, to be a conduit of prayer, to be a support of prayer. You've been called to this space, not by happenstance, not by coincidence, but called to this space to use your gifts, who you are, as a divine expression of love. Prayer. It is the foundation that we stand on. And prayer is part of all religious and spiritual communities. As a child, do you remember your prayers? Does anybody remember a prayer? Remember the one, now I lay me? Say it with me, now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. If I should. Why would anyone teach a child about dying? That's like the monster in the closet or the monster under the bed. So would you? I stopped, and I guess I was a rebellious child. I decided I can't say that because I wasn't ready to go. I was like, God, I need to talk to you about this. I went on, and I learned the Lord's Prayer. And that is the prayer that propelled me, moved me into this space of prayer. How many of you remember a time when prayer was, let's make a deal? How many of you have ever had the let's make a deal time with God? Raise your hand. Yeah, don't be afraid. Let's make a deal. I read about this lady, and she was late, stressed, on her way to a meeting, and she's driving around, looking for a parking place, and she began to pray. She said, God, Lord, if you give me a parking place, I'm going to give up this. I'm going to be that. I'm going to pray more often, and I'm going to be the model person. And she drove up, and she said, oh, a parking place. And as she pulled in, she said, oh, never mind. I found it. How many of us, took a minute, right? How many of us play, let's make a deal with God, and not be serious about our prayer practice? I have a TikTok account. You all know what TikTok is, right? There was this gentleman. He got a phone call. He took out his phone. He looked at it. He put it away. He came out of his room first, looked at the phone call, went back into his room, and he closed the door. Think about that for a minute. He left the room, picked up a shovel and a plastic bag, and he walked out the door. What do you think that meant? I took it like this. He had just left the room. You know, he tells us to go and close the door and pray. He had finished his prayer, picked up the phone, saw something from someone, probably one of his children, said, oh, okay. He went back in the room, prayed again, and came back out with a shovel and a bag because he was on his way to clean up a mess. As we look at this prayer, we are guided by the scripture to pray without ceasing. To pray without ceasing, to be in the mindset of prayer all of the time, letting prayer be part of what you do. Let it be your breath, prayer. What is prayer? You can go back. Prayer is the soul's sincere desire, uttered or unexpressed. It's what our soul wants to do, that constant connection with spirit. Prayer in man is a conscious expression of the upward trend of nature found everywhere. Prayer is an affirmation of truth. An affirmative prayer, it's the spiritual activity in which one enters into conscious remembering of our oneness with our allness with God. True prayer is more than supplication or asking for things. Prayer is lifting our consciousness to the oneness, to the allness. Prayer does not change the circumstance. Prayer changes our perception. I was a sophomore in college at Eastern Michigan University. I'd come home for Christmas, and I guess I somehow amassed a balance. Didn't want to tell my mother that I owed the school some money, but I understood what would happen if I did not pay that balance. I started praying about it. I was 18 years of age, and I understood the power of prayer then. I came home from walking the campus, and on my door was an eviction notice. And it simply said that if you do not register by 12 noon, you must vacate this apartment. Mortified. What do? I think it was $250, but it might as well have been $1 million because I didn't have it. I called my mother. I said, Mom, I'm getting ready to get put out of school. She didn't have it. She said, you know what? I'm going to pray about it. We're going to trust God to see what will happen. I got quiet and I started praying. And it came to me that you had money left over from your scholarship. Go use it. So I went to financial aid and asked if I could use the money. The lady there said, no, this is for second semester. No, you can't use it. I said, but I'm going to get put out. She said, I'm sorry. Can't do anything about that. Okay. I started walking, talking, crying, and praying. Snow was falling everywhere. I said, God, what am I going to do? I don't want to go home. My mother doesn't have the money. There's money, but I've been denied the use of it. What do I do? Spirit said, talk to the president. I stopped and said, me? Go to the president of the university? I did. I went and explained my plight. And I said, I need to use the money. He reached into his drawer, took out a piece of paper. He said, what's your student number? 301507. And he wrote the note. Allow Wilma Taylor to use her funds to pay her outstanding bill and to register for school. You ask, Reverend Wilma, why did you tell me that story? Because prayers are answered. Prayers are answered immediately. Sometimes if you don't hear right away, you may think that prayer is not heard. But in you is that God presence that will give you the inspiration that will empower you to implement those prayers, to believe those prayers. I graduated Eastern Michigan University, April 1980. I had no more challenges because I knew the power of prayer. I prayed about everything. Everything. If my car wouldn't start, I prayed about it. If I didn't have any food, I prayed about it. If I wanted an A in the class, I prayed about it. There was nothing that I wouldn't pray about. And I knew at 18 years of age the power of prayer. Through prayer, we are strengthened, mind, body, and soul, to recognize and live our truth. That was the truth of a young woman who had not even connected with Unity Worldwide Ministry. But I understood then the power of prayer. Prayer is a communion with the divine mind. When you stop, when you pray, when you listen and tune in, you are inspired. Last Monday, I had an opportunity to visit and participate in a back-to-school rally. And this young lady who actually, she was here with us last week. She's connected with someone who's here with us today. And I understand, and I believe that through her consciousness, tuning into spirit, she heard her prayers, and her prayers were answered. Prayer is the consciousness of allness of life. Allness is perhaps a better term than God because sometimes it's less understood, misunderstood. Everyone doesn't say God, their spirit, sweet spirit, the universe. So I chose to use allness. We live and move in the allness of life, and that was written by Reverend Eric Butterworth. Ephesians 6:18 tells us that prayer in the Spirit on all occasions with all kinds of prayers and requests, with this in mind, be alert and always keep on praying for the Lord's people. As a prayer chaplain, that's what we're engaged in, praying. 25 years at Renaissance Unity is the prayer chaplain service that we provide, that is provided for us. And every Sunday they come up and they stand here and they pray. But not just Sundays. As we were moving through the pandemic, our prayer chaplains were there, calling, checking in, praying. There's a young lady that I know, 2018, she had a stroke, 42 years old. She couldn't speak. She couldn't walk. She couldn't stand, prepare her meals, drive. I gave her name to Renaissance Unity's prayer chaplains. And this community prayed her back into healing and wholeness. Prayer works. Prayer works. First Timothy says, I urge you, then first of all, that petitions and prayer and intercession and thanksgiving be made for all people as students of truth. We are here for that purpose. Prayer is a universal language. When I was in Africa, I had an opportunity to attend a church service, and every word was in Kiswahili. I did not understand anything that they were saying. But you know what? It was the spirit of that prayer that permeated my soul. I could feel it. Silent Unity. Every day at 11 o'clock, they're called to prayer. I was once visiting Dearborn, and I could hear a horn calling people to prayer. Years ago, I was having a conversation with a licensed Unity teacher and one of our prayer chaplains, Janice. Janice, where are you? And she's here. And Janice says that on her phone, she has an app. And that app would tell her, it's time to pray. It's time to pray. It's time to pray. She was called to prayer. Why is prayer important? Why is prayer important? Because it connects us with that presence, that power that is in the universe and in us. Does prayer work? Absolutely. I just shared with you my experience with prayer. Does God always answer prayer? I'll let you answer that. What are your thoughts? Yes. May not come when you want it, but Be there right on time. Prayer. In prayer, we need to be deeply conscious that God is the Almighty. He is the center of our being, the infinite and eternal presence that gives us life. And what we do with that life is to return what has been given to us. Share our gifts with our community and our family. Ernest Holmes says, prayer reaches its highest possibility when it arises above the limitations of any existing circumstance. And when we pray, we do so in the affirmative. And as we pray, we are sending out thoughts and we're holding thoughts, and we see people healthy, healed, and whole. How many of you would call yourselves a prayer warrior? Raise your hand. I would. Because every time you speak, every thought that comes from your mouth, everything that you create in your consciousness is a prayer. All thoughts, all words are prayers. Say this with me. Our thoughts, our prayers. And we are always praying. Our thoughts are our prayers. Take care of what you are saying. Seek a higher consciousness, a state of peacefulness. Know that God is always there. In Unity, we have a process. Where are my mathematicians? Any mathematicians in here? I have a question. Can someone tell me, are scientists or mathematician, what is E equals MC squared? What is that? It's the what? Oh, okay. Did I do the disclaimer that I am not a scientist and that I am not a mathematician? So I wouldn't know. Well, what about this one? A squared plus B squared equals C squared. What is that? What is it? Okay, I got one for you. How about this one? What about A plus I equals forward? A plus I equals forward. A plus I equals E, elevation. Whose theory is that? Does that sound familiar? A, attention, plus I, intention, equals movement, forward, elevation. Whose theory is that? Reverend Glenn. He shared that with us last week. Remember, he said that attention plus intention equals elevation. And so that's what we're here to turn our attention and start our intention to elevate our consciousness to a higher thinking. In Unity, we have a prayer process, just like those theorems and theories. And it is the Unity 5-step process for affirmative prayer. Because in Unity, as I mentioned, when we pray, we see things perfect, whole, and healthy. The first one is relaxation. when we breathe deeply and we focus within. And we free ourselves of all concerns. The second one is concentration. We recognize the power of God's life in us. The wisdom and the love is ever present, and we begin to center our thoughts. And then we go into the silence, into that meditation as we reflect on the power of God. And there we listen in silence and experience the power of our own divinity, knowing and sharing and connecting with the attributes of God. And then we go on to realize and know that we have that power to be, to have, to do, to allow. And that regardless of the circumstances, it is done. And then appreciation. We're grateful for all that has manifested in our lives and come into our lives. Prayer is a call to action. It is a call for us to stand up and be and live in the truth of who we are, that no matter the circumstances, the conditions, we understand and we know that God is ever present. No matter the diagnosis or the medical condition, that all is well. Well, Reverend Glenn always gives us a challenge, right? You got a challenge. 6-day prayer treatment. We're on this journey. We're on a journey to understanding our truth, on a journey to understanding the power of prayer. So this is what I encourage you to do. I encourage you to connect with one or two people. Set aside a time to pray. And on Wednesday and Thursday, have a watch party and join the World Day of Prayer in the village. Friday and Saturday, write a prayer. Go into silence. Wait. And listen to hear from Spirit. And record what you have heard. Prayer. It is a sweet communion between man and God. It is our time to come apart for a while. It is a time to elevate our consciousness, to live in our truth. It is what unites us to the oneness and the allness of one another. It elevates our thoughts and it matches it with our divine mind with infinite possibilities. With prayer, we are lifted from our concerns and we move to the highest truth that we can realize, our wholeness, our well-being. Prayer. It is a call to action. A call for us to be who God intended us to be. So this week, as you continue your spiritual journey, let prayer be the practice. Let your prayers be prayers for others that you see the good and perfect outcome for them. Let your prayers be the words, the thoughts that help to heal this world. We partner. We co-create those things that we would like to see. Let your prayers, spoken and unspoken, be what changes this world. Prayer, it is the highest mind action. Prayer connects you to that power, that source. Prayer is the sweet communion of you with Spirit. It is a reminder. It is what pulls you from that what may be troubling you. It is what pulls you from and lifts you to a higher state of being as you release those things. Prayer. It's what we all need. It's like the breath that we breathe, the food that we eat. It is essential to who we are. It's essential to our lives. Let's take that into our consciousness. That without prayer, where would we be? I'm a living example. And I didn't tell you everything, just told you a little bit. But like all of you, my life is not without a challenge. I've had things that brought me literally to my knees. And if it wasn't for this spiritual community, gathering with me, standing with me, sending out that energy and that vibrational frequency, I don't know that I would be standing here talking to you today. We've all had our challenges, the divorce, the foreclosure, the repossession of the car, the failed relationship, the people who passed on and transitioned. But it was the prayer that I whispered, the prayer that I spoke as I walked in sub-zero weather with tears freezing on my face. It was the prayer of the righteous that pulled me back, that had me standing here speaking to you today. Is prayer. This is my home. I walked into Renaissance Unity 25 years ago. Broken, failed relationship, no money. Well, I had some money, but not a lot. But it was the prayer that kept me. I kept coming back. I got into 4 T's. And I allowed that power of prayer to ground me, to anchor me in my truth. What am I saying, Reverend Wilma? What am I saying to you? Delve into what Myrtle and Charles started for us. We stand on their shoulders. Practical Christianity, prayer, silent unity. Prayer. My call to prayer, your call to prayer. When we tune in and we listen, we allow Spirit to move in us and through us and allow us to see and stand in faith that what may not be obvious, that may look totally different, but it's the prayer. It's the prayer. It's the conscious connection with Spirit that makes the difference. I've told you my stories. I've shared some laughs. I've given you some quotes, some Bible verses even. As we think about prayer and we learn some formulas, one that we didn't particularly remember, but it's there. So this week, and if you've forgotten, you didn't write it down, Leah's going to put it up for you on our website. Spend some time connecting Be intentional about your prayer. Let it be something that you really do. Don't let it be a rote or something you feel like you just got to do in a hurry. Take the time. Be intentional. Connect with Spirit. I'm a living testimony. I am a living testimony that my mess was turned into a message. My test is my testimony. Let it be true for you. Renaissance Unity, it has been a pleasure to share this time with you, to talk with you about being called, prayer as a call to action. Take action. Allow Spirit to guide you in a way that you have never felt before as we continue our spiritual journey.